Welcome back to the Movie Marathon Men. I'm Owen Garner.
And I'm Luke Carr.
And we watch films that make us go, Today we're doing another episode of Babies First. This is where we look at a director's whole body of work and ask questions of what is their best work, what's their most representative work, eventually trying to find the answer to the question, what should Babies First, Francis Ford Coppola film, in this instance, be? So, Luke, when we're looking at Francis Ford Coppola,
we're thinking, ooh.
What are we thinking? So, yeah.
What a hairy chest.
What a hairy chest. So, yeah, we've got The Godfather, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3.
Yeah. Or as it was called on my streaming service, Michael Puzo's The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone.
Right.
That felt to me like a...
bit of a spoiler.
Like a Pez knockoff to FIFA. I didn't trust that was the film. I'll be honest with you.
We've also got Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, there's The Conversation.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, The Outsiders.
Rumblefish.
Jack.
Captain EO.
Yeah.
Some real classics. I mean, yeah, so Francis Ford Coppola, this sort of very prolific director in the mid to late 70s.
Prolific at chucking out nepotism babies as well.
Yes, yep. And then we see a sort of slight trail off with films like One from the Heart and...
Would you describe it as a slight trail off?
Well, we'll get on to talking about all these
or just going like off the trail, say like down a mountain,
and bankrupting his company American Zoetrope, which was quite impressive. Well, yeah, let's just fire in with our first category.
Oh yeah,
and that is release date.
Yeah. Well, to me, Francis Ford Coppola has an era, and in that era, you
mean a year? A year?
Oh no! I'm building something here.
Yeah,
you gotta let me work. It's 72 to 83.
Yeah.
There's one little thing that sticks out in there for me.
You're right.
Which is 81, One from the Heart. But outside of that, The Outsiders, The Godfather Part 2, The Conversation, and Apocalypse Now. That's the run, the good run.
Yeah,
that's the release date era. So for me, it's Apocalypse Now. Because it is, I think, a man who built to a magnum opus. Whether you want to call it his magnum opus or not, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
And then you see immediately afterwards, you see the future of Francis Ford Coppola, and you get like one little one just sort of to top it off. You get an outsider. It's just like a or maybe he. All right. But you have the beforehand straight bangers. Then it's his I'm going to bankrupt myself the first time.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking of bankrupting. We're watching Francis Ford Coppola obviously to get ready for as we're calling it, Megaflopolis. Again, a self-financed film like Apocalypse Now. So he spent 150 million on Megalopolis, and well, it's going to be interesting. It's not going to do well.
Has anyone ever described a film that's going to be good as interesting?
No. Yeah. It's like, oh, what's it like? It's interesting.
It's bold.
It
goes places.
It's out there. It's doing things.
Yep.
So yeah, release date, I agree with you. We're looking at that sort of run, and I think you're right in the Apocalypse Now being 78.
9, I think. Obviously intended to be in like 1942 when he started filming.
Yeah, I mean, but that is at the end of that kind of run.
Yeah.
Of, well, the sort of pinnacle
the
of that run.
The 4-film run. Yeah.
Of like, wow, this guy just can't
let
miss.
Let this guy do what he wants. No, I didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Put it back in a box.
And so he's from that same generation of directors as, well, not even just generation, but that sort of class,
as they self-called themselves.
Of like Michael Cimino and George Lucas and Brian De Palma. They're all in that sort of similar. They're sort of hanging out. They're they're working together. They have their sort of shared company and stuff like that. And then
hope for their benefit, it wasn't a shared company.
Yeah, well, no, because they all like had their like, oh, they've lost it. So like Michael Cimino made Heaven's Gate. That's what killed the Western, really, in Hollywood. And then, you know, they're sort of all doing it. And George Lucas, like after Star Wars, did like the Ewok movies, and it's like, what's going on? And wrote films like Howard the Duck, and it's like, what's actually happening? So yeah, you have this brief shining moment where they're making, you know, Cimino's making The Deer Hunter, Coppola's making The Conversation, and they're all and George Lucas has come and shaken up the game with American Graffiti, and then reinvented the wheel with Star Wars. And you're like, wow, these guys, they're just the new Hollywood class. They just can't miss. And then you get these masterpieces.
Yeah.
And then it finishes. So yeah, I agree with you. I think you can write it down on the board. What is Francis Ford Coppola's easiest watch?
So this man does not like editing.
No,
he does not cut his
have you seen the Redux though of Apocalypse Now?
I've only
unwatchable. Unwatchable.
His runtimes are ridiculous. So part of this has got to be kind of short.
Okay, so the 17-minute Captain EO.
It's I'm gonna check out a wild one. This isn't gonna be my answer, but Heart of Darkness, the documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now, only 90 minutes. Directed by his wife.
Yes.
It goes by pretty quick.
Yes.
It's actually quite an easy watch. I'm not going to suggest
that's not allowed. What should your first Francis Ford Coppola film be? Not one of his.
It gives you the best insight into Francis Ford Coppola. I
don't want insight into the man. I want to watch one of his films that's easy.
Ones that I'll chuck up as One from the Heart is short. It's not that for me. It's not that easy to watch.
No, it's the but also Frederick Forrest, who he works with quite often, his lead character. So it's kind of him and Terry Garr are the kind of shared leads. He is a difficult character to follow.
Quite difficult to follow.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So like he's like not charming. He's not sort of a sympathetic character.
Just a pathetic character.
Yeah, he is, and so yeah. I mean, the film looks incredible.
I will say you're right. The composition of shots moving one into the other with the Las Vegas sort of neon lighting, lovely.
I think for me, maybe the easiest watch is The Conversation.
So the two, because of course I never say my film first. I said 17 films.
I know. You sort of really worked around just to. I
had two options, which was The Conversation and The Outsiders, because I've got to fact quality has to be a factor here. The Conversation is firstly just a quick 2 hours. The Outsiders, I think, is an hour and a half.
Is it?
It's pretty. There's two versions. There is a 2 hour version. There's an hour and a half version.
I think I maybe watched the 2 hour. I don't know. I watched whatever is readily available most recently.
But I think for me it is The Outsiders just about. But they're both really. They are.
I'd say The Outsiders is quite a slow-moving film.
I suppose if you watch the 2 hour one, maybe it is.
I might have watched the 2 hour version. I watched it on a plane, so I don't
seem to watch these films on planes. Should have chat setting guy.
No, it's just been to America once, and it's a long journey. So I watched 3 films each way. Yeah. In The Outsiders, a thing happens. Yeah. They then have to go, and then another thing happens. Yeah. And they get to come back. But in that period between the first thing and the second thing, it's quite slow moving, I feel.
I imagine a lot of the scenes a lot of that half hour was maybe just that. I think for me it's so easy to follow because it's kids. So the kid characters have to be told what's going on. So it's literally like explain the plot to me like I'm a child.
Yes.
But it's in universe. Yeah. So you know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it. Whereas in The Conversation, it's a little bit more. It's not up to interpretation, I suppose, but there's a lot more of him just sat there, press and play, press and rewind, and you have to read facial expressions. And I'm not sort of giving the benefit of the doubt to our audience that they can do that.
That they can do that. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I felt you sort of arrive in the conversation and you know what's going on. Like you're, right, it's about surveillance. And so you just have that. And then the plot for me plays out in quite a, not like predictable, because it doesn't, it sort of shocks you, it turns, it thrills you, it does those things, but you always know what's happening. And then even when it does sort of, as you say, those longer drawn sequences of like play and pause, and there are sort of dream type sequences, and there's a bit of playing into unreliable narrator and things like that, but none of it is like too confusing or too indulgent, which Francis Ford Coppola often is. So I agree with you that it's one of those two. It's not Captain EO, even though it's 17 minutes, because that is absolutely wackadoo. And also Michael Jackson is in it acting, and he's not great at acting. That's the worst thing I can say about him. Easiest, we have the conversation. So we've stayed in the 70s very firmly. Let's move on to our next category. This one, I don't think that you're going to be able to argue me round at all, but I'm sure you'll try.
Right.
Cultural relevance. When we look at Francis Ford Coppola, what is it?
It's The Godfather.
It's The Godfather.
Thank God. Right.
It's
The
Godfather.
I felt like
no, Luke. It's because of the last one of these videos that we did. I was just so ready for you to be like, oh no, it's Apocalypse Now. Which there's
no argument. Don't even try.
There's a suggestion that it could be that, but I almost started the video going, oh, I'm on gonna, but you don't want to do that. But there are so many things of like look how he massacred my boy, or you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding. People do that.
It is so obviously The Godfather. Godfather Part 2 is not even at all, to be honest. Like I actually watched it for the first time for this. I'd seen The Godfather before. Nothing stood out to me in The Godfather Part 2.
Well, Fredo, I know it was you.
Yeah.
That's the bit.
It's not as big as any of the things.
No. But that's the but I think people would mistake that for being in one, which again is why The Godfather most definitely is.
Yeah. I would argue actually that beyond the other ones, the second most is maybe even Dracula, for actual like what would invite conversation, what would other people want to talk about. Like barely anyone will have heard of The Conversation in our age group now.
Yeah.
No one, and you've got the choice of The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, and then what else? Like we can go, The Outsiders. Actually, it's got like 17 A-listers at the age of 12.
Well, that's the thing. It's so weird because it does, but it's not remembered for that. It's not like, look, Tom Cruise, Rob Lowe, Matt Dillon, like all that. It's like, yeah, but people don't remember it for that. Whereas like The Goonies, people are like, yeah, Josh Brolin's in The Goonies, like, but people don't talk about The Outsiders in that same way.
It's like 7 A-listers as them. Like,
and like Tom Waits is in it and stuff like that. And
who is he? What's his name? Patrick Swayze. Did you say that one?
No, I didn't say Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. Diane Keaton.
Yeah,
it's like the entire cast is but it's not that. I think Dracula, just because not for necessarily good reasons, but people talk about the terrible accents, they talk about the campiness.
But also the Gary Oldman performance.
Yeah. So I think that would actually be the other option for. I say other option. There's no other option.
No.
I'm filling time. The answer.
We really are. We're doing like due diligence. Yeah. But it just definitely is The Godfather. Now we get into an interesting point. So with Tim Burton, you wanted to pick the middle of from their good work to their bad work. Well, Francis Ford Coppola definitely has a similar filmography where there is a line and there are outliers, but there is a line.
But the thing is, as I argued at the time, and I'm not going to argue in length this time, Tim Burton's career existed through the bad films, but he is relevant for the bad films.
He's managed to still go, and they've been relevant.
Francis Ford Coppola has not been relevant.
Also, like Jack,
like none of these are. They're not the films that we're on about.
Peggy Sue, Tucker, Man of Industry, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are actually bad. I've heard bad things about Jack, but if those are good or bad, not relevant.
Twixt.
Yeah, a Tetro.
Yeah.
So, like, none of these have made an impact.
So they're not included, honestly. Like, his filmography finishes at, I guess, like Rumblefish. Maybe it was the
Rainmaker with Matt Damon and Claire Danes.
Watched that one.
I've not watched it, but that's what I'm saying is maybe outlier.
Yeah, but it's about 12 films, or no, 12, 10 maybe 10 films. It's sort of that's his career. It's really harsh. Actually, he's made like 27 films. I've just got 17. Do not matter. This is actually, I'm not certain what I'm going to say.
I feel so when we're looking at his films, we're thinking like grand epics like Apocalypse Now and Bram Stoker's Dracula. We're looking at gripping dramas and thrillers like The Godfather and The Conversation.
I might just say The Conversation for me, because it has a dreamlike element. It is a bit crimey. Mm-hmm. It's good for one.
Yep.
I think that a lot of his films are about the personal psyche dealing with the thing, whatever it is. Some exclusions being like Dracula's just about whatever it's about. But like Apocalypse Now is about the characters dealing with the whatever's going on in front of them, the craziness of going down the river, in the same way as like The Godfather would be about Michael going whichever way he goes.
Just the sort of death of his soul,
It's a lot
I guess.
about, and this has the same main character sort of trying to grapple with whatever it is. But I'll be honest, I don't really know what the answer to this question is.
I think it's maybe One from the Heart. it's this bloated epic that is self-involved. It's bigger than it needs to be. It's meandering. But it's representative in the ways that the others are, but it doesn't hit well. I enjoyed the film quite a lot. For me, it's a 4 out of 5.
I really didn't like it
because of what happens. But so it has the human drama of the main characters. It has the sweeping epic of the sort of scope of the film, the look of the Vegas-like. It's quite dreamlike. But then also it's too big for its boots.
The way you spoke about it there, I want to give it to One from the Heart as well.
I think it is.
I think you're right, and it is irrelevant.
That's his passion project. That's what he bankrupted himself with.
His career is just a passion project.
Yeah,
and this is the big one that like you can't give it to Apocalypse Now because he's had like 4 big failures.
Yeah.
Because I guess Dracula probably was as well. I'm not even sure what the reaction was at the time.
I feel like it's remembered fondly. Like I watched that off my own steam a while ago because I wanted to watch it because I'd heard of it.
But at the time, it almost felt like, they went.
So that's in the 90s, right? That's in like 92.
Yeah. So it feels almost like they went, right, it's been a decade.
Yeah.
You've done The Outsiders and Rumblefish and maybe like another one
that
I've forgotten about. We'll let you do it again.
Yeah.
Like have another go. Take your big epic book and your big cast and all this. Try and just do a good. What have you done?
Yeah.
What are you doing, Francis?
Yeah.
No.
Because again, that film has an amazing cast.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder.
Your guy.
Yeah, Richard E. Grant, my favourite boy in the whole world.
Anthony Hopkins
is fantastic in it. But yeah, it would maybe be that. But I think throw it down.
It's One from the Heart. What a run we've got there, then. It's Apocalypse Now, The Conversation, The Godfather, and One from the Heart, which I didn't even bother to capitalise.
Well, let's go on to his best film. That's our final category as we're working our way towards what we think should be Baby's first Francis Ford Coppola film. So
there are 3 choices.
Yep.
Or you're wrong. There's The Godfather, The Godfather Part 2, and Apocalypse Now. For me, that face was the face of someone who's not picked one of those 3.
No, well, I think there is an argument for Dracula as well. Like it's not an argument for it. It should be considered. Maybe not against. not to be Peter Griffin, but I did not care for The Godfather.
So my pick is not The Godfather. My pick is Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, that's my pick, but like...
But I still, like... in my mind, the conversation is good, but I don't think it should be in the conversation.
Yeah.
For like, the thing is...
Actually, maybe you're right, actually. Having just said that, I would maybe put the conversation and Dracula in a band. And, Godfather Part 2 and 1 and Apocalypse Now.
Because we're talking, like... potential best films of all time.
Yes.
These. Like when you talk about, we went to Tim Burton, you go, oh, Beetlejuice Edwards, like these are fantastic films.
Yeah.
They're not going to be remembered 200 years from now.
No.
In the way that like, well, maybe we were anyway 200 years far away. But like in the way that people go Citizen Kane and Casablanca, like The Godfather, like he has made 3 films that could be put on the top spot of best film ever.
Yes.
And then the others are varying amounts of good and quite a consistent amount of bad. But the conversation is really good.
Yeah. I think for me, the reason that I was considering it in the conversation of what could be the best is like, is the best the one that I enjoyed the most? Yeah. But Apocalypse Now is an incredible movie.
Oh, it's amazing. Like, on every front, it's like it is one of the best films ever made.
I think it's the best war film of all time.
It's my favourite of the films that get put on those lists. It's not my favourite film ever.
Yeah.
But when people say, as I said, The Citizen Kane, Godfathers,
the top 250 of IMDb, like
of those big films, Pulp Fiction even. Like I prefer it to like, and I like Quentin Tarantino. But it just hits absolutely everything, and clearly they didn't mean to.
No.
Having watched Heart of Darkness. That's part of what fuels it as well. I think the behind the scenes like chaos of it makes the film better.
Yeah.
The fact Martin Sheen had a heart attack and a stroke. The fact that Marlon Brando turned up having not read the book, way overweight, and just refused to learn his lines and improv it all.
And shaved his head and stuff.
His head. And like they went like 3 years over for schedule.
Yeah.
They like rented helicopters from the Indonesian army or Philippine army who were currently at war and had to keep pulling them away to go fight people like down the river.
Yeah.
They used actual dead bodies unknowingly. The extras were just a tribe that they found and they convinced to be in this film. Like all of this stuff.
They killed a real cow in the film. Like you see the death of a living creature.
Martin Sheen's opening scene where it was his birthday and he'd just been divorced on that day, and he was having a mental breakdown
and was actually drunk.
Yeah,
he punches the mirror and actually cuts his hand.
All of it, like
Lawrence Fishburne was 14.
Yeah,
Dennis Hopper turned up just off his face constantly.
They nearly got killed by a tiger at one point as well. Tiger is in the like. It's a bit where like they're walking towards it and Francis Ford Coppola was like, get closer. And they're like, no. And then the tiger obviously jumps at them. And they were like, the guy who was guiding the tiger had like one half of his whole face and body is like scarred from the tiger attacking them.
Oh my gosh.
And they're just like, well, this wasn't, it was, oh yeah, no, this was, and then they said like, we've not fed it for a week, so it's really hungry. It's just like every day seemed to be like everyone should have died or like from the stress or the danger they put them all in.
Yeah.
Like it's such a chaotic, ridiculous thing. It bankrupted him.
Yeah.
It's all of this, and it's one of the best films ever.
There we are. That's such an effervescent case for why it is his best film. Well, what do we think should be the category that is up for consideration, or the categories that we need to discuss and come to an answer for? So, as we found with all of these different episodes of Babies First, with different directors or producers or actors, whatever we're doing, it's different categories that are up for consideration. So with someone like Francis Ford Coppola, I don't think it's going to be representative, because we've assigned one from the heart. Yeah. So it's not his representative work. It's more like the cultural relevance, or the best, or the easiest. Release date, I think, again, in the sort of inverse of representative, is like, well, it's no, because that's him like at his peak.
Yeah.
So you can't really pick that because that's not like your sort of window in, because you maybe want to build to that. But if it is in a different, so I think we're looking at easiest, cultural relevance, and best. So what do you think out of those is maybe your way in for him?
There's a difficulty here. For me, it's between two. It is between The Godfather and it's between Apocalypse Now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bias towards Apocalypse Now. I think the issue with The Godfather is is it longer? It depends which one you watch, I suppose. It's long. It's slower paced than Apocalypse Now because it is very conversational. Like there's action, but it's not in the same.
There's not action. There's events.
Yeah. There's shots like fired occasionally.
There's like 2 shots fired.
There's a couple of one of them gets like properly.
Oh yeah, actually, there's quite a lot of shots fired in that scene. There's one of the worst blockings of a fight scene ever, though.
God, yeah.
And it's like Francis Ford Coppola allowed this to stay in. Got him.
The issue with the Godfather is it invites watching The Godfather Part 2, and that will inevitably invite watching The Godfather Part 3. And I'll pitch not watching The Godfather Part 3 as saying that the biggest B plot in The Godfather Part 3, if you haven't seen it, just involves incest. And no one brings it up, really.
Gosh.
Like, it's just like, people have issues with the incest, but not for the incest. They're just like, he's not good for you. She's not good for you either. And you're like, well, yeah. Yeah.
Is it Sofia Coppola?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Nick Cage? Is it real life incest?
I can't spoil the film.
No.
It did that itself. No, it's a weird film. Al Pacino delivers just like the typical 90s Al Pacino performance. Right,
yeah.
Just unrelated to The Godfather Part 2.
Right, yeah.
The plot's really weird. It just involves like the Pope and the Vatican.
Yeah.
And it all gets a bit... It's very plodding. So, yeah, not that one. It's difficult because Godfather is so relevant that I think if you were to just watch one Francis Ford Coppola film and you watched The Godfather, you could get a lot of mileage out of that in your life.
Yeah.
I really want to say Apocalypse Now.
It's, so The Godfather referenced constantly in other films as well. You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
He's constantly referencing it.
It's referenced in Zootopia.
Yes, yeah. Do I mean You've Got Mail? Or do I mean Sleepless in Seattle? Is it referenced in both? It's the go to the mattresses. The shop around the corner is You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
It's You've Got Mail. But hey, it might be referenced in Sleepless in Seattle as well, maybe. Yeah. But it's like referenced multiple times in You've Got Mail. Almost a plot point of that film is The Godfather being a film that like men love.
Yeah. I'm really trying to convince myself to say The Godfather, but I don't want to.
It's a tough watch.
Yeah, it's not. I didn't find it that hard to watch actually. It didn't zip by, but I was pretty entertained in a way that I wasn't expecting. The first time I watched this, I was bored. I was young, but I was bored the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't think it is one of the best films ever made in the way that it's loaded up, and I do think Apocalypse Now is. I just have to say I have to be true to myself. I have to say Apocalypse Now.
And I think I agree.
Yeah.
So there we are. We've come to our conclusion that your first Francis Ford Coppola movie should be his best. We'll be back with more videos. We might do a review of Megalopolis because we've got a great title for it. The thumbnail is ready to go. But we don't know. I mean, maybe loads of people are going to be talking about that film, so it'd be worth it, but it might not be. It's been fun getting ready for it, though.
Yeah.
I think we're both going to watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. My anticipation for it did dwindle as I did start at the beginning. I did go Godfather Part 2 conversation. I'd already watched Apocalypse Now, but I watched them through in such a... Then I've just...
Wow, this is going so well. Oh, no.
It was going so and it was going so long. I need to say this again. The man makes 3-hour films too often. Yeah. No one should be allowed to do that.
No.
Put him in jail.
Direct to jail. He'll definitely be in after this.
And maybe real life jail.
Yes. Yeah, after what he's been up to. Well, there we are. So there we have it. Your first Francis Ford Coppola film should be Apocalypse Now. But yeah, as I say, we're going to be back with different videos. We've got different series. We've got Saga Wars, where we look at saga movies. We've got Worth the Wait, where we look at legacy sequels and other miscellaneous things that we do. But the best way to stay up to date with what we're doing is to like this video to get recommended our next ones, but also to subscribe to make sure that you don't miss any of them. Well, I've been Owen Garner.
And I've been Luke Carr.
Thank you for watching, and goodbye.